Welcome back to another episode with us, your TransAction Florida, for Transgender Awareness Week. We have put together special panels for the entire week to highlight special communities within the community who support and stand for the trans community. And of course, naturally, we are highlighting transgender individuals. Today's episode is about transgender-led organizations. So we have trans community leaders who lead an organization in their city in the state of Florida who are going to be speaking to us today and helping us break down the stigmas and bust some of those myths about the trans community. So today, my name is Angelique Godwin. I am the director of Transgender Equality for EqualityFlorida. And I have three other organizations. We've got Capital T, My Trans Network, and Divas in Dialogue. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and I'm going to have each of them tell you why Transgender Awareness Week is so very important to them and their organization. I'm going to start to my left with the beautiful duo. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Janelle Diaz.
And I'm Jay Douglas.
And we're representing Capital T here in Tallahassee, Florida. I think Trans Awareness Week is important to me because it makes me feel seen. Even though I feel seen on a regular, right? But it makes me feel seen and empowered. So yeah, it's really important to me.
Jay, you want to throw in yours too again?
Well, to go off a little bit on what Janelle was saying, representation is so important. And so to have a week where we can celebrate and look at all of the joys and successes of our community, the resilience of our community is wonderful.
I love that. Yes, thank you. And then for those of you who don't know or who haven't watched, go watch Jay's episode. Jay was with us for the community members. As a young and up-and-coming community leader, we were so proud to have them on our panel discussing their points of views and where they stand. But they just so happen to be a part of Capital T. And this is my dynamic duo. I can't usually have one without the other, so I'm happy to have them both today. Up next, we're going to have Divas in Dialogue.
Hi, everyone. I am Mulan Montrese Williams. I am the Executive Director of Divas in Dialogue here in Orlando, Florida. And Trans Awareness Week is important to me because, well, for so many reasons, but for one, it's a week that folks are tuned into us. They should be tuned in us all year, but this is one of our weeks. So it's important. And also it's important to me because even though we're bringing awareness to different things, Divas in Dialogue uses this week to highlight other amazing trans individuals that may not be in Florida, but we use this week to highlight them and the amazing work that they're doing as well.
That's great.
Yeah, I love that. Divas in Dialogue is actually one of the few organizations who are getting a lot of spotlight this year. You guys are doing a lot of work and making big moves and doing some great things. And I look forward to joining you guys, even though this is all going to be launched on Trans Awareness Week. And I will happily have my little butt in Orlando, Florida to take part in some of those wonderful events you guys have planned together. And I want to shout out all the organizations who band together for Trans Awareness Week to do different things. I get to speak with our next guest. So we're going to highlight My Trans Network.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Satino. I'm co-founder and vice president of Trans Network. We are a grassroots 501c3 nonprofit organization. And as far as the Awareness Week, the word visibility really pops out to me. And that goes hand in hand with awareness. But being visible is incredibly important to me because it took me seeing my reflection in a documentary for me to find myself in 2004, to find my truth. I had to see it. And so that's what I do and what our organization does is to try to be as visible as possible. And of course, talk about the work that we do. But I think just being visible is incredibly important.
I love that. I love that. Visibility is a strong point within our topic today. I honestly have had the task of finding something different to say for every panel. And as the moderator for each panel, it's definitely not easy, but I think you guys find my words often. And times I feel like Trans Awareness Week is definitely a time for us to stand in the sun. It's a time for us to embrace ourselves as much as we help others embrace us and accept us. It's a chance for us to see each other and really get a moment to be inspired and empowered by the movements of the people in our community. Far too often, we're taught to move with our heads down and get the work done. and we don't stop and smell the flowers. We don't stop and enjoy the sunlight. So this week is a highlight moment. It's a celebration moment in which we don't just celebrate our successes, but we celebrate each other. And I hope and I pray that everybody takes a moment to celebrate themselves, because this ship didn't get moving. It didn't get to where it was without the work that we do individually and the work that we create through our individual missions, goals, and visions, and the things that we brought to life over this year. And even though we still got another 60 days or so to go in the year before we close out our year, that doesn't take away from the fact that we've accomplished so much, so vastly fast within this year alone. So that's what it means to me, and especially with this panel of individuals who, in their own right, everybody here has influenced me and helped me be a better leader and a better organizer, and has helped me reach my goals. So thank you so much for all you guys do. And with that, we're going to move into our first question: stereotypes and stigmas and myths and things like that. As organizations, in the height of the Florida ecosystem and all the crazy legislation that's going on right now, I'm sure you all have faced your trials and tribulations. What's one stigma that you are either battling now, or an obstacle maybe that you had to overcome, that you want to bring to light or make a little noise about, so people can understand that it's not as easy, or maybe things aren't as golden as they may seem? We can start with whoever is ready.
I want to say, first of all, I want to say thank you, Angelique, for saying what you said about sometimes we're just so caught up in work that we keep our heads down a lot. We don't take the time out to celebrate ourselves, a lot of the leaders and things like that. So thank you for stating that. I think a lot of the stigma that I've seen or that I faced is, I don't think community or people outside of our community realize that we are family oriented. I have children. I have grandchildren. A lot of times I can't even bring my grandkids or my granddaughter to a show or a function that I have. I think that society forgets that we are family oriented. We all have different backgrounds. We come from, I have a mother, I have a father, I have siblings. It resonates with me because I am so family oriented. I think a lot of times we are over sexualized. I feel like people look at us as objects instead of actual human beings sometimes.
Believe it or not, this is something that actually has come up multiple times. It's a reality for us, right? The desensitization to us as human beings, or the idea that we're just recreational use only, that we don't have a purpose outside of that.
Yeah.
I was often raised to believe the construct that trans people could only be drag entertainers, strippers, or prostitutes. There was no in between. There was no safeguard for the female trans population. That's all I saw. And even the people I knew, there were very few successful in the eyes of society. Successful.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few people who had jobs or worked in businesses that they could grow in. And the few that were free of corporate had their own businesses. They were like hairstylists or makeup artists, and they were living okay, but they weren't doing anything. And even then, they had to show up to work in societal eye view. I know a trans woman who would go to work as a man, would tape down their chest or wear a bra. They had boobs, but they would go to work with slight stubble, because if they didn't, where they lived, it was dangerous for them, for people to know that they were a trans woman. That was crazy to me. Or we only saw the night clerks at Walmart. You know what I mean? Who were working the night shift back when there was a 24-hour shift, because they weren't allowed to work the day shift. Or maybe they didn't prefer the day shift. Whatever the case may be, that was what we saw. And that visibility hindered even how I approached my transition. It slowed it down a lot, because I was like, this can't be it. There's got to be more. Lo and behold, I moved to Florida and I found out I could literally be anything I wanted to be. There was nothing off the table, right? There were many women with their own businesses or doing their own thing or working and living day-to-day jobs and having full-on lives with 401ks and all that stuff. So it was very possible, but I think the closed-mindedness of it really comes from the fact that representation does matter, visibility does matter. When you see other people succeed, you realize that you have that capability. And so even as a standing testament to that, I think that we change people's views the more that we're seen doing something outside of that norm, the more that we take that idea from them and prevent them from seeing it, or prevent them from using that excuse that that's all they know. once they meet somebody who doesn't meet that standard, it's no longer all they know. And even if you are one example, that changes everything. That changes the verbiage. So I think it is important, and I think that it is valued. It has value to break that stigma for sure. Anyone else or want to elaborate?
Well, that was one of my stigmas as well. And I'm so happy to be alive in 2024 where we have the opportunity to change that. And I call it the sex worker curse. That was my life. Like you said earlier, Angelique, when I was coming out, I'm 45. When I transitioned over 25 years ago, it was you were a sex worker or you were a drag entertainer. And for me, the drag entertainment was not paying enough. But I'm so happy to be in 2024 where we have changed that narrative and they have leaders like us in place to let the younger generation know that, hey, you have a choice. Now, I will say I support sex work, but I also support them knowing that there is another avenue for them and it's not the only thing that they can do. Another stigma would be that trans folks don't vote. We really have to, well, I think we have shown them this year. There are so many organizations out here are doing things to really push the community out there to really let them know that their voice does count. So I'm really proud of all the organizations that are doing voting projects and sensitives and things like that. I'm just so happy to see that.
I wish I had a hot button.
Crazy over there.
Button on that one. I'm gonna piggyback on that one. We're gonna stop the clock for a minute because I want a hot pot. We definitely need to talk about that because I think that I went on a small tour because of that. Like there's a whole ideology that not only do we not vote, but we're somehow fearful of voting or there's some kind of backlash for us to vote. And I think that comes from the idea of some of the barriers that have been put in place of us. But I hope and I pray that every single person in the state of Florida that is in some place or space of transition knows that the small sacrifice you have to make showing your ID and maybe at some consequence it doesn't match the name you want it to be or the way you want it to show. I hope that you still go and vote and you still go, even if it unfortunately is under your dead name or it is under maybe the gender marker isn't changed or maybe the picture isn't up to date, whatever the thing may be that you don't like on that card, I hope that you still take it and you still use it to vote because your vote matters. And that is a small consequence, I think, to pay rather than losing your life, rather than losing your freedoms for your life, rather than never having an opportunity to change that document ever again. So that's what could happen worse if you don't go vote and if you don't use your ability to vote. So it's not that I don't think that they will or won't vote. I think the stigma for us is the calls coming from inside the house. I think that it's our own fears preventing us from taking those steps. But I am so happy to live in a generation where we have people who are expressing just how important voting is and being able to go and be a part of the LGBTQ task force, being a part of their voter registration and voter information, the Ready Set Vote event, being able to teach people about their safety and what they can and can't do was a huge thing to me. When I got asked to do it, I didn't realize how big it was until I had to sit down and read the law on what voters can do and what they can and can't do and what happens if someone was to get denied for voting. I think that that's a huge thing because people just don't know. They think that it's black and white, or they think that they can't because they don't dress the way they look on their ID. They can't stop the blonde woman from going because she's brunette, or the girl who changed her hair red from going in, or the girl who went tanning all summer and now is brown and she's no longer pale white. Like those are all realities that people face. A woman who it's 10 or it's 5 years until, or 10 years we have our IDs, right? So it's been 10 years since she went her afro. She got a lot more wrinkles on her face. Nobody's stopping her. The man who lost all his hair, nobody's stopping him. You know what I mean? The reality is that picture is subjective, but the only thing you have to do is have your signature and a photo identification. That's it. As long as the names match and your signature looks the same, they can't tell you no. And I think that that's a huge misconception for us and a huge stigma for us because we feel like we can't vote sometimes. I know it was hard for me when I started my transition and I had to go in and it was using my dead name, but I knew my vote was more important than that little 5-second exchange between me and that person at the counter.
And when it also, just one more thing, when it comes to voting, in our world, we learn from our trans elders. And back in my day, it wasn't something that was talked about. And also, we have to, I think we need to bring more notice to the fact that if you are a convicted felon, you can get your rights restored. Because for me, I have been voting now. Had my privilege to vote for 6 years now. And that's because I went to prison. And when I got out, I was told I was never going to be able to vote. So once I came into this field, someone said, hey, that's changed now. And I got my rights restored. And I remember going to vote for the first time and I cried. I was so happy. I felt like my voice was heard. I felt like a part of not just the LGBTQ plus community, but I felt a part of the community as a whole. It really empowered me to go vote. So please, if you're out there, check on it. You can get your rights restored. So just please look into that because it is possible. And it makes you feel so good. I tell you, I cried my first time voting and I believe it. I couldn't believe that it affected me like that. I was happy to go vote, but when I did it and came out, I just bust out crying. I felt human. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to feel a part of our community, but there's a whole world out there. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it just felt good to be a part of the world with what I was supposed to be doing.
Felony convictions is a huge thing because they don't want people to know that. They don't want people to go and get their rights restored. They don't want to take the time to let people know. There's so much upheaval about that. But we in this state are really, truly lucky and blessed to have the Angie Nixons and the Ventry Driscolls and the other advocates, Michelle Rayner and stuff like that, who work doubly hard for the justice system and for the ability to get people back on the right track. There's constant talk about how felony convictions are a huge part of the disconnect in certain communities, the Black and brown communities to be specific, but even more so in that pigeonhole of a bullseye target, the Black trans community. There's so many people who were unjustly arrested or unjustly jailed or spent time or got a felony charge on something that should have been a misdemeanor and having to go through that. No one ever tells you that the process can be restored or that you can battle that or appeal that and get your life back. Because felony people on the outside are treated worse than felony people on the inside. Or at least inside, you get 3 square meals in a bed. Out here, it's not guaranteed. You know what I'm saying? And to get a job, you got to really work your way through some things or know somebody who don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? It's really, really hard. Or much to your own story, creating where there is no space. You're having to build and create your own space. And even that is something to be admired. And last but definitely not least, go ahead, my sir.
Well, Milan, I want to thank you for bringing that up. I caught my first felony at 18 years old. So I had never voted until the state of Florida, the voters of the state of Florida implemented our rights, right? Yeah. It had been 20 years since, you know what I mean? So I cried too. I just want you to know I cried too. And I'm probably going to cry this time as well. So, and there is a great stigma around felonies and addiction as well. And for me, that goes hand in hand. But I'm grateful to have, you brought this up as well. I'm privileged to have watched our community get to where we've gotten to. And I'm excited to see what more we do, because we're not stopping. I know none of us here are stopping. And I've met every single one of you, and I want to say thank you. You all do inspire me. And that's the truth. I'm not blowing smoke. Like, you're amazing. And so I appreciate all of you.
I've known you the longest, Andy, 10 years, since my days at Flamingo, back when I was a little gay fairy fly running around in Speedos. So
after my days of running around in Speedos. But with the stigma, I think you got everyone pretty much touched on it. The fact that we're not groomers. We're not sexual deviants. Don't reduce us down to that. We're human beings. This is our identity. That just drives me crazy. But I just want to bring up there is a stigma within that happens. There are stigmas that happen within our community. And I think we all do touch on that with our community, try to drive us forward and not compare ourselves to others. So I would say that that's the worst kind of feeling I've got is being a groomer. Before my transition, I could engage with children. And now I'm a man And I've seen the cutting eyes of parents when the kid's trying to engage with me. And it's different for me. And so there's a stigma there. However, I do realize I am a straight white man in this world. And that is a great privilege. And I do my best to use that as a tool, not a weapon. And I hope I've been doing that well. That's Sorry, I was just working on Tito, and I'm looking at your beautiful faces.
Sending you love, Andy. Sending you love.
We love you.
The dude cries, right?
I don't have commercial breaks. I'm like, I don't have commercial breaks for this. I'm not listening. I'm not ready. I'm gonna have to keep that. I'm not gonna tell you to hold back the tears, but damn, I need a warning sign. All right, hold on. I need a second.
Sorry about that,
y'all.
Sorry.
We're gonna put it together. No, this is good. This is good because we're human, right? We're allowed to feel emotions, and I resonate with what you were saying specifically about that. Standing the barrier, right? I love kids. I just had my bottom surgery, so I will never have kids. But I am blessed with brothers who don't know how to stop having kids, and my sister. And so I have, if I'm not mistaken, at this time I have 16 nephews, 1 niece, and I have 1 nephew on the way. Actually, I'm sorry, that's a lot. I have 2 nephews on the way. My youngest brother just announced last weekend that he's having a baby. So, and I have my sister-in-law is going to be popping 1 out in December. So I have 2 on the way. I'm getting close to 20. I'm going to make them all get vasectomy when I hit 20 kids. And once the 21 is announced, every single male in my family is getting a vasectomy. I'm paying for them all because I can't keep track of the names or the birthdays or anything. It gets crazy at times. But I love them. And there was a time period before I started my transition where I was actually scared as a gay Black man to be out with my nephews or my niece, because not all of them look like me. Not all of them are some. We're close. I hug, I cuddle all of them. One of my oldest is 22, 23 years old, and I still hold him the way I held him when he was 1. I'm recreating those pictures. I sing Slipping Through My Fingers from ABBA all the fucking time. I am one of those people. I love my kids. They're like my kids. They're the closest thing to kids I will ever have. And so there was a part of me that was scared of that. In my transition into being a woman, at the very beginning, the first 2 or 3 years, I still held that insecurity. I still worried that people would see me with them and make judgment or say something or make comments or whatever have you. Even family members, when we were in that weird phase when I'm wearing dresses and things, and now I'm fully into my transition and I'm comfortable with it because I know nobody else is thinking the stupid things that I'm thinking. I mean, I'm my own worst enemy, but there's still this overwhelming fear. You see it in people's faces when you grab their children, when you hug them and their kids love you. And they're like, it's that knee-jerk reaction, like, what's going on here? And then it's one of them funny movies where it's like, I see you, you see me, I see you seeing me. It should be a comedy, but it's actually a horror movie. It's a whole setup, but it's all based in this fear that has been implanted in us because we're innately somehow pedophiles. We're innately somehow these monsters or these groomers or these people who are deviant. All of these words, that's horrible in an essence. But I believe it was with Jay and Katie yesterday. I said, I think we need to take back the power of some of these words. I'm not a groomer. I was like, when I think of a groomer, I think of somebody who takes care of pets and animals. So if I'm responsible for your kid looking great and feeling good about themselves and loving their life, then absolutely 100%. 1000%. Yes, I am in that aspect. I'm giving your kid the love that you refuse to give. I'm helping them love themselves more than I love them or more than you love them. So if that's what being a groomer is, then I don't mind the title. I don't mind that being that because I'm a mentor at best. That is my job title for life. I'm the number 1 auntie in the world. I'm the rich auntie at the party. I come in with the fly purse and the fly shoes, baby, because I don't got no kids. I'm the one taking trips to France and Italy because to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. That's me because I don't got no kids and I ain't got no responsibilities. I'm sorry. You chose kids and I chose the bag. It is what it is, but that doesn't mean I love any less. It doesn't mean that I'm incapable of understanding boundaries and knowing the difference between such. And I feel like that's a huge stigma we face. We're just innately bad because people don't understand us. But the reality is that they put their kids in Catholic school and they get more molested and raped. They put their kids in camps to get more molested and raped. They put their kids in after-school programs with deviant teachers. We've had more male and female teachers on the news about sleeping with their students than we have trans people affecting kids, period, ever in history. It don't happen. No, it just doesn't happen. That's not how this works. And so I think that that's a huge reality that we face. It's a huge stigma that's always swept under the rug in the sense of who's safe to be around. I think that's stupid, but I digress. Does anybody else want to talk about this topic? I want to hop on the train. Jay, come on, bring it in.
No, don't get confused, viewer. This is not an attack that is based off of the actions that we're taking, that we're being actually predatory towards children. It's certainly and solely an attack on our identity and us being able to express ourselves and live our authentic lives. There's plenty of people that are unable, cisgender people that are unable to have children, that love children, that become educators, that become daycare providers. There's plenty of people that adopt, people that are unable to have biological children, that adopt, that love children, and children and youth are their passion. And so it's not an attack on the actions, and you should not feel ashamed as a trans person for having a passion for wanting to uplift the younger generation. You should feel outraged that they're allowing that conversation to take place.
I wasn't going to share this, but I will say this. I was molested at age 9, right? And my molester was supposedly a straight Black male. And it has angered me in the past when even people have possibly tried to accuse me of trying to do things with my own son, my own blood son. It's crazy to me that people have these wild imaginations about their speculation of who I am as a person because of my outer appearance, which is crazy, right? Even in the church, I am very strong in my faith for people who are Christians and who are in the church. That has been something great as far as with stigma is concerned, I feel. And I think that's something that needs to be talked about as well, because there's a lot of hurt, even for individuals who grew up in the church, people who are pastors' kids. Last year, my grandmother turned 90 years old last year, and she wanted us all to go to church. So I had to go back to my childhood church last year. That was like, I was horrified to go back to church. And I feel like I'm so close to God. But I found that I did not need to be in a building to feel close or have a relationship with God.
Ooh. Amen.
I had to hit rock bottom almost on my deathbed to realize that I can't live my life based off of people and how they feel about me and what they think I should do and how they think I should live. What does it matter to you how I choose to live my life? What does it matter to you how I choose to dress? What does it matter to you how I choose to pursue my happiness? These are the things that are important to me as a human being.
I think that stops so hard. I think there's so many things that you said that I resonate with. I will say that that's a huge stigma, that the ideology that we do this for all the wrong reasons. I was living my life for other people's happiness for 30 years. I did everything by the book. I went to school, I graduated, got degrees, had great jobs, did corporate. I took care of myself. I achieved all those goals at a young age, and it was for nothing. I was miserable. I hated life. By the time I was 27, I was ready to end it. I even had attempted suicide in a previous relationship. I was in a really bad place. And when I went to people for help, everybody's thing that they said to me was, oh, it's you. You'll get over it. You'll figure it out. You always do. You're capable. You can do it. And it was so hard because at that time, I had never really spoken to anybody about the want to transition. And I knew that nobody would agree with it. Nobody would support me. And nobody that I was around in that time. And it wasn't until I moved to Florida that I found people who supported me, and I had built a support system strong enough to sustain me in the event that I felt like I lost everything else. It took that kind of support system. And I think that there's a huge stigma around why we choose to transition when we choose to transition. And there is no right time. There is no wrong time. There is no perfect time. There's no fine line that we choose to cross. It's life or death, because I was living and playing the fence, right? I was doing what most people do, being a woman at night and being a man in the daytime. I was doing all the daily activities to appease society and the community I lived in. And then at night, living my best life, because that's when I could come alive, right? And that worked for me until it didn't work for me, until somebody thought it was a good idea to sexually assault me, until they decided to drug my drink and drive me 2 hours away from home to Crystal River, beat my ass in a hotel room and leave me for dead. That was my story. And in all of that, I woke up and I instantly and almost second naturedly went and took care of business. I did everything, on the list. I seen the doctor, I went to the crisis center, and I didn't fall apart until I got home after everything. Like, I spent a whole day being poked and prodded and asked questions and being thought of as a drug addict in the hospital and all these other things. Me, the little straight-laced girl who don't do shit wrong. They was in there thinking I was some kind of class 4 drug addict, pulling a stunt to get medication at the fucking hospital because that's a life I want to live. You've never seen me before, but apparently I'm this world-class actress and drug addict. We love it. If it would have got me an Emmy, I would have took it, right? But the reality was those things happened. And I realized at the end of that, because that was my rock bottom, I'll be honest. And I realized that I was living my life for other people. And if I had died, they would have buried the wrong person. They would have buried a fake. They would have buried a lie. They would have buried the dream I sold them. Because I had believed it so much up until that point. The number one thing I thought of, the thing that made me cry when I got home that day, wasn't that I had survived. It was that I was living a lie. It was the fact that if I had died, I would have died the wrong person and nobody would have ever known who I was. They would have never known the real me. They would have never got to experience the me that I had been dying for. And it took me almost physically dying to acknowledge that, to embrace that, and to say, I have to live for me. I had to become selfish. I had to become this person who no longer viewed these things in that manner. And so I think, to your point, it's just, that's how badly we want to fit in society. That's how badly we wanted to be accepted. We were willing to completely hide ourselves away, to lose who we are in the midst of everything, rather than be alone and be happy. Because that wasn't an idea that I thought of. That wasn't something I considered. And now it's the reverse. Now, if everybody walked away from me, I'd be like, all right, see you when I see you. I'm okay. I'm totally 100%. If the world closed me off for another year, 2 years, 10 years, whatever, I would be okay because I'm happy with who I am. And I'm perfectly content with who I see in the mirror. And as long as I can maintain who I see in the mirror and my happiness, then I'm good. I don't need nothing else from nobody. The validation, the acceptance, whatever. I accept me, I validate me, I love me, and I love me from head to toe. Everything from the top of my head to the tip of my toe. With my little dancer feet and all my busted up chops, from the years of doing it in high heels. Like, it's wild, but it's the truth. And I wish more people understood that. Everything that I sacrificed for this, everything that I was willing to give up for this, is no different than the man who chases his dream to be a cop or a lawyer who spends every day out on the beat, or the people in the military who completely give up their lives to service a government entity. People who spend every day on the track and on the field to be a better athlete. I was willing to fight that hard to be the me that I am today. And I sacrificed everything I have, my time, my money, my energy, my education, my smarts, my community, my family, all of it to achieve my dream.
Angelique, your story is quite the opposite from mine. Listening to you, I didn't do all the right things. And I didn't have the language to know what was going on with me. I was that fierce drug addict, homeless, living in the streets. I was a booster, amongst other things. 20 years of active addiction. This went from the 80s through the 90s to the early 2000s. So you can just imagine what my jug of choices. I was trying to kill myself. I was trying to die, if not, at the very least, I was trying not to think or feel. And it gets missed that within active addiction, trauma occurs. Sexual assault occurs. Rape occurs. Things happen in prison, sexually assaulted in prison. It's because I didn't have an answer. I went through 8 rehabs. No one had this answer for me. And like I said in the beginning with the visibility, it was literally watching that documentary in 2004 That was my epiphany. I knew right then in that moment, I'm a dude. Oh my God, that's what this is. And I haven't been back. I don't have a desire to escape anymore. And you're right. I did the work. I love who I am. I found out who I was. I did the work to become who I am and who I want to be. And I continue to do that. And I hope that I'm an inspiration for others.
I think the ideology of perfection is overrated. I think that anytime, like, I don't believe in perfection. I don't believe in it for myself, for other people. It's not a goal on my list. I'd love that people think that I achieve it somehow by existing, but that's not me. I don't highlight the bad parts because I don't think they define me. I'm not sitting here as some perfect person. I've been in jail. I've been in the back of cop cars. And the worst case scenario is that it wasn't even in the back of my daddy's cop car because my dad was the cop. Like, I have done things outside the box. I am not some pristine, clean piece of white paper, baby. I got edges on my lawn, but I just make sure that the font on the page is pretty and big enough for you to read that. So you're not looking at the outside of the box. You focus where I want you to focus. You know what I mean? And that's all about presentation. That has nothing to do with anything other than that. It's how I want you to see me, but I shine my light unapologetically. I love the line from Scandal. Olivia Pope says, "I want to stand in the sun." Ever since I started my transition, that's all I've ever wanted to do. I don't hide who I am. I don't hide my flaws. They made me who I am. All of them, from the hood of the Bronx, New York, to the Poconos of Pennsylvania, to Pittsburgh, PA, to Tampa, Orlando, and St. Pete. I've been all up and down the track. It don't mean that I've never done it perfectly. I do everything messy. I love messy living in places. I'd rather have a messy story than a perfect story. There's no such thing as a perfect story in my mind. The only perfect story is the one that Instagram shows you, and that shit ain't even perfect. So it's got gaps. It's got gaps in the post, times, and dates, baby. If you paying attention to the timeline, if nothing ain't happening between here and there, they lying. Because shit happens, you know what I mean? Just as much as you go, like, it happens every day for you in your human body, it happens in real life. And I will never deny that. I love those parts of me. They made me who I am. The person who is so sure, the confidence you see, that came from falling on my fucking face, not on my ass, on my face. Like, it is really, I wear my scars on my sleeve and I have no problems with it. There's not a part of me that doesn't want to share that part, right? So when I meet people and they see me, this is the person who has gone and played in the mud and washed it off and come back. I've made clay pots out of my mud. I've made, I've sold buildings. I've done it all through that mud. I turned it, lemons into lemonade, baby. And I don't even like lemonade. So I made lemon pound cake and I made ice cream and I did everything with it but made lemonade. You know what I mean? It's about accepting yourself and living your life and accepting all of it. I think so many people are focused on this ideology that you have to be good and only the good matters. That's bullshit. I've never met a great person that didn't have a little bit of dirt on them, that didn't hustle in the dirt just a little bit. And my favorite people are always the people who play in mud and learn how to get real clean. Yes. Because it's not how you fall, it's how you get up.
Right. I'm a firm believer in, when asked the question, what would you change? I wouldn't change anything, because if I change anything, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't be in the position that I am to help the next generation get by. We had to go through those things. If we didn't go through, we couldn't help anybody go through anything now. You know what I'm saying? We had to go through the struggle. We had to do this. We had to do that. And it made me, I know I can speak for myself, it made me a better person, and it made me it made me realize that, hey, God, you always hear the saying, God only puts the strong through it. And I feel like I was strong enough and he put me through it so that I could be here now in the position that I am now to help the next generation not go through
it. There's only one you, and your story is unique for a reason. Everything you went through is so that you can help somebody else. There's so many people that came into your life that you've changed their life for the better only because you could. So many lives you touched with your story, only you could touch. We could all be in the same room, but they're always going to resonate with you. You are always going to be a magnet for them because it's your story. I can't explain it other than that. And it sucks. It's not the best that each of us had to go through those trials and those tribulations, but much to everybody else's same, resonance, we all wouldn't change it because it made us who we are. That humility we have, that humbleness we have, that little bit of character, that je ne sais quoi, that little rough chic look we got going on, it came from those experiences, from that lifestyle.
Right.
And it's also the reason why I think we all magnetize to each other in our own rights. It's the reason why we resonate with each other, because we see that part of us without having to say that part of us. There's a lot of unspoken conversations that happen between us because we resonate. And you never knew it, but now you know it. So it's out there.
As everybody is talking, I'm looking at TransAction, I'm looking at equality, I'm looking at individuals who have been through life. And never in a million years would I have thought that I would be an executive director or sitting in a position of leadership, right? When I was out in the streets prostituting, I remember one night that I was crying because I was just tired of living the life that I was living. And never in a million years I would dream that I would be in this position to be able to inspire, be able to help, and to motivate the youth for tomorrow. So I'm grateful to be amongst you all today. I am grateful for this opportunity, and I just love you guys.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The term is, I'm gonna get this put on a t-shirt. It wasn't on my bingo card. Being a director of a nonprofit helping the trans community was not on my bingo card. From makeup artists to drag queens, working in this industry was not on my bingo card. But I will tell you, it is the best blessing I have ever stumbled into. From volunteer to this, I will never not be thankful or grateful for it, because it brought all of you into my life in a different way. Meeting you all and crossing paths in and out the industry or the field or in the themes or whatever was one thing, but being linked arm in arm with you guys in an organizational capacity has truly changed my life. It makes every day worth living to know that there's other individuals doing the same work, if not better. I am constantly inspired and motivated by your actions and the steps you take within your own businesses. When I see your flyers pop up, it inspires me to get my shit on so I can get on there and get stuff done and catch up to everybody else. Because there are times that I feel like I'm so far behind in terms of steps taken and actions done. But I do know that I'm running my own course, and it's not in competition, but I'm just excited to be a part of the change that I see happening in the community. Against all odds, you guys have truly always stood the test of time, especially these past 2 years, and provided for your communities. And I thank you guys for being such beacons of. It's one thing to be hope for the future. It's another thing to stand tall as a lighthouse. So continue to do the work that you do, because you guys are irreplaceable. By far, there's no one who could touch the work that you're doing in your respective communities. And I love you guys so much for it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. So we're going to end with our last question. It is our lightning round. I hope everybody's ready and that y'all didn't forget. Now that we've gotten through the mushy stuff and everybody's a little bit. So this is the Thanos Snap question. I want to know, if you could get rid of one stigma, and it's any stigma in the world, what would it be? Thanos Snap style. We're actually going to do this in reverse. I'm going to start with Andy first. One stigma you could get rid of.
One stigma, here it is, that we have an agenda.
Listen, I got plans, but I don't got no agenda.
Well, we got plans, but we don't have an agenda. That's mine.
Oh my God. Get rid of it, right? Okay, good. No, I like that one. Simple to the point. I want to go to Janelle and Jay. Jay in the back first, and Janelle. Jay, what's one stigma you wish?
There's one thing I wish I could get rid of. It would be the gap. I wish that we could all start at the same place and fight the same fights, and we didn't have extra obstacles in our way.
You know, I'm like trying to figure out oh my God, I'm drawing a blank because
one more moment. Mulan, if you got yours ready.
Yeah, so y'all know I'm in prevention a lot. I'm very heavy on prevention. So if I could stop one stigma, it would be the stigma around HIV. We are living in the world 2024 where HIV should not be a problem. It should not be an issue. It should be something that is freely talked about, especially with all the new medications, the PrEP, the doxing, with everything out. HIV shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be looked down on. So if I could remove one stigma, that will always be the one that I choose to remove.
I love that. You equals you, baby. It is very much that. Undetectable means untransmittable. And as somebody living with HIV, I think that it's very important that people understand that it doesn't have one look, that it doesn't affect just one community. It affects all communities, and everyone is susceptible to it. It is the one thing that has no prejudice. It affects everybody. It's for men, for women, for trans, for non-binary, for the they, the them, for the monogamous, for the non-monogamous. Yes. It's for everybody. And while there is a cure, and while there is a preventative measure, while there is things in place to help people feel at ease, I think that it is equally important for people to take the steps to stop the spread. That's a stigma that people are on the other side of it tend to forget. Just because we have these things like medications or PrEP or PEP, that doesn't mean that you should just be willy-nilly about who you sleep with and about the protections you do or don't use or getting tested regularly for any account. And that's for all STDs, I think. But HIV should be not the number one concern, but it should always be in the front of everybody's mind as a precaution. And for people not to have fear about it. And in light to your stigma, I'll add to yours to give Janelle another second because she looked like she's still searching.
I got it. That was a good one, Mulan. That was good.
No, but I want to play to the side of the other side of that. For those people living with HIV, it is not a death sentence. It has not been for a long time, and you can still live a very healthy, active, proactive life with that. And you can still have meaningful relationships, and you can have safe sex in the sense of your partner being on PrEP or you taking your medication and just keeping yourself tested and up to date so that you can keep yourself undetectable so that it can stay untransmittable. Yes. That'll be mine. And so Janelle, close us out.
This December, we're going to be coming up to our second year of having our safe house for our trans women of color. And we're about to open up our trans mask house next week. I think the stigma behind homelessness is I was homeless. I was kicked out of my home when I was young. And if I was just given a chance, right? If I was just given an opportunity to have shelter and have some support, right? I would not have had to go down the road that I went down. I'm not saying that we have all the money to keep people and to keep our community housed. I am having faith and trusting God that He will supply our needs and that He will make a way for my community. We can't just assume that somebody that is houseless is a bad person or they're on drugs or whatever have you. Even if they might be, everyone has a story and everyone deserves a chance.
That's a good one. Y'all can't listen. Y'all, when this week airs, I want everybody to know that I did not know that this was going to bring such meaningful topics to the surface. I didn't know that it was going to bring these kind of feelings to the surface, but I'm happy to share this space and to provide this platform to individuals like the people you see here today who are willing to be vulnerable, willing to share their stories and willing to express themselves freely. I think that at the end of the day, no matter what people take from these things, you need to realize that we are all just human beings. We have all been through trials and tribulations that you can and cannot fathom and or understand. And although some of us speak candidly or freely about the things that we experience or about the things that we have gone through, and we laugh and we make light jokes because of where we are now, it does not discount any of the experiences, good or bad. That does not take away from the lives that we've lived. And it does not at any point in time give anyone the right to make fun of or discredit anybody based on their lived experiences, because we are human beings. We are naturally inclined to have emotions and feelings, and we should not be shamed or feel ashamed of sharing those because they made us who we are. We said that before, but on a more serious note, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that this is a safe space. And thankfully, this is pre-recorded, and their comments will never hit us now. But we'll only take the good ones. But I love this. I love us, and I look forward to having many more conversations like this. This is what it's all about for me. This is why I pursued this. I bugged several departments and made them jump in to help me execute this idea because of individuals like yourself. This is what it's about for me, because I get to be inspired by you guys in a personal basis. And I feel like it's time the world sees you guys too and gets to hear you guys too. And even if that's 100 people or 500 people or 1,000 people, no matter how many people see this, you're going to inspire other people with your stories, and people will now know about you and your organizations and the work that you do and the kind of souls and spirits that you are. So thank you for once again sharing and being here. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for being a part of our uplifting series for Trans Awareness Week. And I really do hope that we can continue these conversations in many, many more spaces and continue to uplift your voices and your stories, because they deserve to be heard just like you deserve to be seen. Thank you so much. I love you guys. Tune in tomorrow for our next episode featuring our next series of panelists within the trans community. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and have a wonderful day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.